Hi everyone. For the first part of this video, we are going to be sketching out some basic shapes and turning those into forms. So shapes are two-dimensional, which means they have two dimensions, usually length and width. Shapes are flat, and oftentimes they are, in this case, geometric. You could also have shapes that are organic, as in found in nature, but today we're going to be using geometric shapes. We're going to be turning those into three-dimensional forms, as I said, and forms usually are three-dimensional, and forms have a length, which is, in this case here, length, a width, and a height. And you would probably have heard that before in math class. So let's start by splitting our paper, and if you have a ruler at home, that would be great. If you don't, just use a straight edge, maybe a long book or something like that. And I'm going to probably just split down the first third of my page, not quite in half. Over here, I'm going to write shapes and 2D, which stands for two-dimensional. And you could also write the word flat to remind yourself that shapes are flat. Over here, I'll be writing form. And forms are, like we said, three-dimensional. And forms have volume. So you can remember that by adding the word volume. One thing I want to point out is that shape and form are elements of art. So technically in art, they are blue words. Blue words, shapes and forms. Okay, let's get started. So first, you're just going to lightly sketch out a circle. That's our first shape. I like to get my hand going around and around, and we're just going to let this be pretty sketchy today. So if it's got extra, lines, that's fine. Next shape we're going to be doing is oval. The next shape is a triangle. A rectangle. And a square. Now this is pretty simple. But one thing we don't picture is that everything in life is made from basic shapes. So if we're talking about creating a tent or drawing a tent, that would be a triangle, or a house, a rectangle. A lot of things are oval and circular shaped. And so when we start drawing, and hopefully you've learned this from drawing class, you want to look for the basic shapes in things. But we don't just live in a flat two-dimensional world, we really live in a three-dimensional world. For example, I have this little picture right in front of me. If I was going to draw this, what shapes would this be, and then how would I make this so that I could show that it has volume or a form? Well, that's where shapes that turn into forms are really important. That's where it comes into play. So let's start by making a sphere. The sphere looks an awful lot like a circle. One thing I'm going to add to my sphere is a curved line here and a curved line here, just to show that this is definitely three-dimensional. Until I shade it, I can't really show any more dimension than just the curved lines. Then I'm going to take these two shapes here, a triangle and an oval, and put those together. I'll make a cone. So I'm going to sketch out my triangle. But before I put this flat side on the bottom, I'm going to add in the oval, a nice curved line here and right around the front. This looks like a party hat or an upside down ice cream cone. In fact, why don't you go ahead, draw another oval up here, and then add in the shape. So now it has some volume. We're showing that we could actually put something inside of this. Next up would be your triangular prism, or a triangular based pyramid is really what we're looking for. So triangular based pyramid starts by using this triangle but angling it a little bit. You'll see it in a second. So I'm going to put a straight line down and then 2 lines that come off the sides, but they're slightly shorter. And then I'm going to connect these 2 lines in the back just with a dotted line. And then I'll put my straight solid line in the front. This is showing that I have a pyramid that has 3 sides. Well, what if I wanted to draw a pyramid that was a square-based pyramid instead of a triangular-based pyramid? All I'd have to do is start with the exact same shape again. I'll start with the line first, and then I'll angle my triangle out just a bit more. And then I will draw my lines basically right here so they connect on the sides. But then I'm going to imagine that there is a square base here in the background. So I'm going to draw my dotted lines, which are the see-through lines, in the back to create a square base. You can see the difference here between a triangular base and then a square base. And then comes the triangular prism. And so the triangular prism is really fun because this is sort of like a tent. And I'm running out of room here, so I'm just going to turn my page this way, draw my triangle, and then picture that I have another triangle in the back here. And then I'm going to connect my lines. Sometimes people don't like drawing the triangle in the back. Kind of messes them up. So you could also draw 2 lines that are parallel, like a parallelogram, and then without making it see-through, you could just draw your line there. If you wanted it to be see-through, your dotted line. So a triangular prism looks like a tent. Okay, next up, we're going to be drawing a cylinder. A cylinder is really where this picture comes into play. So it has sort of a rectangular shape. It bulges out a little bit on the end, and it also has a curved bottom. If I hold it this way, you can kind of see that this looks like an oval. The more I turn it, the rounder it gets, looking like a circle. It just depends on your perspective. So here I'll start with an oval on the top, which would be my opening. You can also think of a soda can. I'm adding my oval to my rectangle, bringing that straight down, and then curving the line here. If I wanted to make it see-through, I could bring this around and make it a dotted line. Now do you notice that this line right here is parallel to this line? In fact, this line is parallel to this line. If I'm moving back towards my tent, this line is parallel to this line. So you can see kind of a pattern as we draw 3-dimensional shapes. And next, we're going to draw a cuboid. Some people call it a rectangular prism, but basically it's just a box. So we'll put the rectangle on its side. And here is where our parallel lines really come into play. We are going to make a line go this direction, and I can kind of eyeball it. One thing that's very helpful is if you take your ruler, and if you're adding that line, all you have to do is slide your ruler back. Just slide it and get those lines going in the same direction. Next up, I'm going to take this line and I'm going to slide it down and make my parallel line. So I've got 3 parallel lines, which means they don't ever cross. And then I'm going to take this front edge and bring it straight back. If I wanted to, I could use my ruler and go straight back there. Two straight lines. Oops, this one's a little crooked, so let me fix it. There we go. And just erase any lines that you don't need. Perfect. There's a box. Well, a rectangular prism, cuboid as they say. All right, next up is the true box. So this is our cube. We're going to be using a square, changing it into a cube, and there's a couple ways of doing this. I like to draw it this way, where I take my line here, I imagine my ruler coming across and lining up the parallel line and dropping this down and lining up the parallel line. Some people really mess this line up and it ends up looking crooked, really crooked, so that their box looks crooked. And so it just looks like sort of one of the sides of the box is going to fall over. It's very important to get these parallel to each other. So this line is parallel to this line, this front edge is parallel to the back edge, and then all of the corner lines are also parallel. Some people like to draw their cube a different way, where they draw two boxes or two squares, and then another one behind. This automatically gives you a see-through cube. And then they like to connect the lines. This is a perfect way of doing it as well. You'll just get a see-through cube. And sometimes that looks fun, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on what you're looking for. All right, so now we've taken our two-dimensional shapes and created a lot of three-dimensional forms. In the next video, what we're going to do is take some of these three-dimensional forms and actually shade and make them look really three-dimensional. And this is with the power of a little thing called value. Value is the range of light to dark on a surface. Our surface will be our three-dimensional objects, and I'll take a look with that with you in the next video.